We're looking optimistic right now. Chainlink, we have quite the bounce and it has the right look. Unlike most of the other cryptos, we may have 5 waves up, unlike in Ethereum, Bitcoin, some of the other altcoins. This is, of course, our linear 2-hour chart. And please be sure to check out the description below where I'm going to link you to my logarithmic chart so that you can follow along. When we look at our pattern here, we have green as our primary. And as of our last update, we have done nothing to invalidate this. This pattern assumes that the bottom is done and that it is behind us. So that being the case, when we take a better look at this thing, you'll see that we had a bottom right at 1355 that stands as support because we have not broken it yet. And lo and behold, we have what looks like a 5-wave leading diagonal potentially. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shoot, these even fit inside of a channel trend line, which is a good thing. I don't know if the top pieces go in properly, but if we put a channel trend line from the bottom, it's got that diagonal look. So we've got something. Each of the waves within it looks corrective too, as in they don't look like impulses. You have an ABC, maybe ABC, ugly, ABC, ADC. Ugly is the name of the game, diagonals. You typically have your subwaves divide up in ABCs, and you will typically see your 4th wave down overlap the top of the 1st wave. So it's got all the classic signs of a diagonal. Could it be a triangle? Sure, there's not much difference. They're both 5-wave moves, and they both will precede explosive moves in the opposing direction. In the case of a diagonal, you'll often see a deep retrace off of this thing before we blast back up for a 3rd wave. Now, before we get too excited, leading diagonals are not the most confidence-inspiring sign you're looking for. Our preferable sign that a bottom is done would be a 5-wave impulse. And of course, we mentioned a 5-wave impulse would also have 5 waves up, but you'll see that impulsive form within it, something that I'm not going to cover in detail here, but it would look a bit different from this. It generally gives you a much more confident base from which to project your rally. So this is, again, kind of in between. It's not as bearish as an ABC up, but it's not as bullish as an impulse up. And what makes these tricky is that they're ambiguous. They look like corrective waves. They don't look particularly impulsive. This could be interpreted a number of different ways. Maybe it's an A, B, and then we're finishing in a C wave now. Maybe it's a double zigzag up. There's a lot of different possibilities. So that's where we stand right now. As of now, I would expect us to rally and squeeze a bit higher to complete the top of this 5th wave. And, well, we would expect this thing to extend up because you expect a throw over. That's what the technical term is when you exceed the upper trend line. It's called a throw over, and typically you see a spike-like crash back down, just typical standard fare for a 2nd wave. And provided that that 2nd wave down holds that 1355 support, we should be golden. However, if it breaks 1355, we've got a date with a lower low, which we're going to look at on our big picture logarithmic chart. So as I mentioned, our green pattern is still primary as of now, and that is basically calling this pullback complete. I know I have this currently identified as a 1 A, B, C, basically a 1, 2. This would probably make more sense identified as more a C wave down. Maybe it's an A, B, C down, something like that. Actually, I have it labeled like that already. A, B, and C, with this being the bottom of not the smaller degree 2nd wave, but basically this larger degree 2nd wave. Either way you cut it, it makes sense. This is the bottom that we hit middle of summer, which was my expectation for Ethereum and potentially Bitcoin as well. When you have a really high B wave bounce, sometimes you don't crash down to the standard level, which you'd expect your C wave to come. Sometimes you just have it doesn't go any lower than the previous pullback. So those are all signs that we may be done with this pullback, that we're about to bounce back up. However, as I mentioned, our 5-wave squiggly pattern up doesn't look as clean as I would like. It's not an impulse, absolutely not an impulse. It is a diagonal. Diagonals can look corrective. And when you look at this on the big picture, I know it's a little small, hard to see. You can see a lot of corrective waves. Sheesh, that looks like a triangle almost, but this looks like a consolidation. So, it looks a bit different up close. Up close, like, okay, maybe it's a leading diagonal. You look at this big picture, looks like consolidation. It is quite believable that we go down a little bit lower. And when I zoom back out on this thing, we do have some confluences a little bit lower. In the last video, I mentioned that you typically have your C wave have an equivalence in which it is a 1.0 extension of the A wave, the B wave. That 1.0 extension off this A and B puts us at around 971. That is the top of this purple box. And the standard fibs could take us down to the $5 range. Who knows, something like that. I don't personally think we're going to go that low, but I can't rule it out. There's confluence there from multiple angles. Not only is that the 1.0 extension, that is also the bottom of the fourth wave in the preceding larger structure. That is a common point of retrace for the second wave in this case. When we expand it out even more, there's quite a few confluences there. We hit the 1.764, and after that, again, 1.0 to 1.236, that is, again, another zone of retrace you typically see. So lots of different perspective, lots of confluence within that purple box. So therefore, the second at 1355 support breaks. If it breaks, the red becomes a very strong pattern with a lot of Fibonacci confluence. So watch out for that. If this happens, that'd be make it a little easier for us. This would be a much less ambiguous crash. And of course, we'd be looking at all the other cryptos as well, because I never want to look at one crypto on its own. All the cryptos are driven by the same underlying sentiment. They all move together, contrary to what we're hearing from a lot of us, where we think one crypto is going to diverge from the others. It happens in short time frames, but if that were true, we wouldn't have seen everything crash together the way we've been seeing. And we're seeing a bit of a corrective bounce in pretty much every crypto I can think of. I haven't seen any that haven't. Maybe there's a small new crypto that hasn't. So therefore, if we see more downward direction, if we don't see a clear 5-wave pattern in some of the other cryptos, it would make our red pattern much more likely. That being said, we are, again, much closer to the bottom than we are at the top, or even that top back there around $52, which seems like an eternity ago. It's what, 6-7 months ago? So get your buying plans ready. It is time to be greedy when others are fearful. This thing, if we are going red, could scare a lot of people into selling. We might see something like that in equities as well. You never know. So get ready to buy if you are trying to get allocated in. It wouldn't be a bad time to do so. And I do trust Chainlink a bit more. It's been around a little bit longer, a bit more, actually not a bit. It's a much cleaner pattern than some of the other altcoins. So I would consider this one of the lower risk patterns. However, I always recommend diversifying. So don't just buy one crypto that you like, that you have high hopes for. Buy a bunch, buy 7, 8, buy more than that. You don't know. It's just like buying speculative growth tech stocks, which I don't personally do. But the key is persistence and buying lots of different ones, because let's face it, you're probably going to be wrong on most of them. But the few that you get right are going to more than offset the ones that you didn't. So keep that in mind when you are buying. If I had to project a target for a subwave one from where we are at the moment, I'm actually going to move this thing here and project off that 123, 124. That would be a point of great confluence. That would be the minimum target for a subwave one. So we have quite a ways to go up from where we are right now. If we really are going green at the moment, I'm going to put this little thing up to 124 just to give you an idea. That would be a 6x return. So again, a lot left to prove before we start looking up. So like I mentioned, get your buying plans ready. Let's see what we do with that 1355 support. If we go lower, don't panic, get ready to buy. So don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to keep giving you updates on what I'm buying, how I'm buying, what my recommended allocations and return projections are going to be. So stay tuned and don't forget to give me a like if you enjoyed my video. Until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.